Welcome into today's Saints Rumors Mailbag, Saints fans. I am your host, Trace Gerard. And as always, if you hate the Atlanta Falcons, one simple thing. Like today's video, share today's video, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But most importantly, like today's video because the Dirty Birds, bunch of frauds. All right, so Dylan Erickson, over-under on 4,200 yards and 30 touchdowns for Derek Carr. I'm going to go ahead and say this. Can't wait to find myself on Old Takes Exposed on Twitter. I'm going to say the over for both. I think that Derek Carr has a lot of really, really good weapons. He has a lot of quality players on the offense to work with. He has a good offensive line and a quality defense that he's not going to have to overdo it and be, overstressed and overthink every little thing as the quarterback. So I think Derek Carr has a lot of things working for him. I think that he's a player that definitely could go for over 30 yards or 30 touchdowns and 4,200 yards. All right, James Ballard. By the way, guys, if I missed your question today, hit me up on Twitter at TraceGerard48. Hashtag Saints. Chris Olave is going to ball out with Derek Carr. I have no doubt in my mind Chris Olave is going to be amazing this year. He is really, really good last year. He already has proven himself to be a 1,000-yard wide receiver. Only had 4 touchdowns last year. But I think that that's very doable to way overdo that. I think double-digit touchdowns isn't out of the question for him. When you consider who he had throwing him the ball, you consider that he was partially hurt here and there. I think that it makes sense for Chris Olave to ball out. He's put on some weight. He's added some muscle. So I think that Chris Olave could be awesome this year. All right, next question coming in from Who Dat Matt. Is a Patrick Queen trade still possible? Yeah, so Patrick Queen still is available. He hasn't been moved just yet. In terms of a fit for the Saints, they do need a linebacker. You do need some help at the linebacker position. But I think that it could be interesting. Shout out producer Seeps. Great guy running the ones and twos right here. In 2022, 117 tackles, 5 sacks, 9 tackles for a loss, a forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries. Patrick Queen is a phenomenal football player. It'd be cool to bring back the former LSU Tiger. I just don't know if the Saints will do it. I'm not entirely sure what the Ravens would ask for, but I feel like giving them, a second and a third Seeps or something? Like, that should get it done, right? Like, it shouldn't be anything too much. So it could make sense. I wouldn't hate it. I actually would really like bringing in Patrick Queen because he fills pretty much the last need, I would say, for the Saints going into the season. But it's today's poll question. Would you trade for Patrick Queen? Type T for trade, type P for pass, and let me know. I'm curious as to what you got to say. I'll be interacting with what you guys have to say. I'll be liking and replying to a bunch of y'all's comments. It is the pinned comment on today's show, so if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, take advantage of it and share your thoughts. And by the time you finish typing out your comment, we'll be playing again. All right, so go Saints 4. Do you think Jake Haener can be a future starter? I think that it's too – so I'm going to use the cop-out. It's too early to say. But to give you an answer, I do think he could be. I do think that he could be a starter. I think that he's in a good position too because unlike Jameis Winston, he doesn't have a lot of pressure on him. Jameis Winston's not going to be your backup quarterback forever. So automatically, he's going to climb the depth chart next year. Jameis is on a 1-year contract as the backup. He's not going to be around forever. I love Javo. It's fun. He's a funny guy. He's a great player, or he's a great, really entertaining player, and he's pretty good for a handful of years. That being said, it's clear the Saints, that's not the path they want to go. So I think that Jake Haener, if A, this doesn't work out with Derek Carr, or B, it does work out and eventually just takes over afterwards, I think that it makes a lot of sense. And what I will say, too, is if you have Jake Haener around for a while, you don't put yourself in the weird position you were in whenever Drew Brees retired and you didn't really have a quarterback, so you were kind of on the search and on the manhunt for one pretty much up until you got Derek Carr. So Jake Haener, yes, he could be a future starter, and I think that he would make the most sense to do with the Saints. What up, Trace? Mike T will play at least 5 games from my boy Mikey Taylor. Of course, he's not talking about Mikey Taylor, he's talking about Michael Thomas, but shout out Mike Taylor. Cheers to you, brother. I think that Michael Thomas plays double-digit games. I truly do believe that. I think that he plays double-digit games. I think that Michael Thomas gets anywhere from 900 to 1,200 yards again. I think that he goes for a pretty good season in terms of first downs, touchdowns, and just overall production. I think Michael Thomas is going to have a really, really good season this year. He's got to stay healthy. Mickey Loomis even spoke on it. He actually got a plate removed from his foot. Mickey Loomis saying, you just got to get him healthy. He can definitely be an 1,000-yard receiver. The biggest focus right now is getting him healthy and keeping him healthy. So I think that Michael Thomas, as long as he stays healthy, he will be fine. But I agree with you, Mikey. He will play at least 10 games. And I'm, again, prepared to be on Old Takes Exposed. All right, from Dat Guy, thoughts on signing Myles Jack or Leonard Floyd? So another couple linebackers that the Saints could go and get. I think it'd be pretty smart. Myles Jack, tackling machine, 104 tackles, 0 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss. He is technically more, just like based on like his snap count and how it shakes out, he is technically more of a coverage linebacker. He's just not that good in coverage, but he does get a lot of tackles. But a lot of tackles, 104, that's a good number. But it's kind of a deceiving number because he gets a lot of, over the middle. They dump it off on a slant or dump it off across the middle, and he just wraps up and tackles him after a couple yards. So, I think it would be an interesting addition. I think it makes sense because the Saints need a linebacker. But Leonard Floyd, also another option. 59 tackles for him last season, 9 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, and a fumble recovery. I think it makes sense for Leonard Floyd more than Myles Jack, I would say. I think that it's a need that the Saints should go and address. That being said, I will say if you don't add a linebacker, sure, it stinks, but I think that you'll be fine. I really do think that you'll be okay with what you have. You got one kind of weak link right there, but it's still a good overall unit. So I wouldn't mind bringing in Leonard Floyd more than Myles Jack, but again, we got to see what happens. But I can tell you this, if the Saints make a move, if they bring in any players, if they sign anybody, we will be breaking it down. If they extend Cameron Jordan, we will be breaking it down. If the extension already happened, this was a part of our Wednesday live mailbag put out later in the week. So if it already happened, right, then you know what? We made a video, and if you missed out on it, you probably should have had your noties on. So guys, lock us in. Subscribe to Saints Now by Chat Sports. We're shooting for 15,000 subs before Week 1 kickoff. Help us out, lock us in, and y'all stay golden because that's what we do, Saints fans. Alex Cortez, he says, I'm throwing it out there for conversation's sakes, but should the Saints re-sign Manti Teo? Nah, man, Manti Teo was good with the Saints. He was. He was. Awful situation that happened with him in terms of the girlfriend thing, but that's not what we're focusing on. Manti Teo, though, he hasn't played. He just hasn't been playing really over the last year. He hasn't played since 2020, and in 2020, he logged no stats. So the last year in 2019, he had 6 tackles, a QB hit, and that's pretty much it. He only started 2 games. He only played in 3. Sure, it's a fun name to bring out there. If it happens, then yeah, we're making a video about it. But I don't think it makes all that much sense. I don't think it's going to happen at the end of the day. Go get a guy who's played more in the last 2 or 3 years, I would say. That's just my thoughts. This one coming in from Crawfish Season. I want Quinnen Williams. Did you see his Twitter? Yeah. We actually have photos from that, from one of our earlier segments, funny enough. So Quinnen Williams, he tweeted this out, or not tweeted this out, but he updated his profile on Twitter to look like this. Defensive tackle for ... and a bunch of extra ones. It's weird that we have to actually talk about social media and what players are doing on social media. All of the, what ifs and the buzz about it from Twitter. It's interesting. It's all a leverage tool 100%. But he also did retweet Dexter Lawrence's contract extension or contract negotiation announcement from May, or from earlier in May or March, or what? Yeah, from May, excuse me. I think it's interesting. It's interesting nonetheless because he clearly wants to get paid. But that being said, Williams will be expensive, and for a good reason. He's a good player. He's seeking about $25 to $30 million per year. That's a lot of money. A lot of money. But if any team knows how to figure out the money and how to stretch every penny to get every ounce of value you can get out of it, it's the New Orleans Saints and Kai Harley. So, can't rule it out, but I don't think it's that likely, but you can't rule it out. So, you tell me, do you want to bring in Quinnen Williams? Type Y for yes, type in for no. Let me know in the comment section. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say. I'll be interacting with y'all, as usual, in the comment section. All right, this one coming in from James Ballard. I predict that our Saints can have a record between 11-5, 12-6, or 12-5, 11-6, or 10-7. I agree. I think that the floor for this team is 10 wins. You have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. You have a lot of players who you have a lot of players who are really good. You have an improved roster. The rest of the division isn't really that good. The rest of the division didn't do it. I mean, y'all know me. I hate the Falcons. But they did a little bit more than the Panthers and a little bit more than the Bucks to get better, but they're still not a good team. So, I think the absolute ceiling or floor is 10 wins. Ceiling, I'll set it at 13. I'm man enough to say I'll set the ceiling at 13. Again, ready to be proven wrong and eat those words. But I had my official record prediction at 11-6. I think that they have a really good schedule. They have the bye at a really good time in the year. So I think the Saints are in for a very good season. We'll see how it all shakes out, though. All right, my main girl, Courtney. Trace, what do you think our wide receiver depth chart will be? So I can show you what it currently is, and I'll just kind of mark players off as, I think they get cut. So Tre'Quan Smith, I think he's gone. I think Tre'Quan Smith is gone. I think that you run with a total of 6 wide receivers with the exception of Malik Flowers because I think that he's going to be brought back as a special teams guy. He is a kick return specialist, and I think that if you want to give Rashid Shaheed more touches as a receiver, you can't have him doing as many reps as a kick returner because, you get hurt. But I think Bryan Edwards makes the roster. I think A.T. Perry, I'd love to see him make the roster, but I do, he could be a guy who starts this season out on the practice squad, gets elevated whenever somebody gets hurt or when things happen. Again, this is my speculation. These are like the what ifs and the it could happen. Kawan Baker, he's a guy who the Saints value. Same with Keith Kirkwood and Kirk Merritt. Shaq Davis, I think he's going to be a practice squad guy. I think he's going to be able to get elevated at some point, but I think that he stays on the practice squad at least, or not stays, but he starts on the practice squad. But yeah, so I think it's my final 6. I will say Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed. Go Bryan Edwards, Malik Flowers, James Washington, and I'll throw A.T. Perry as I'll do A.T. Perry and I'll make Malik Flowers my, guy with the asterisk because he's on there for special teams reasons. But I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I hope you enjoyed today's show. As always, please help us out and subscribe. It's 100% free. There's no paywall. There's no nothing. There's no nonsense, no shiesties, no fugazis. Help us reach 15,000 subscribers. We're about halfway there in the 14,000 mark. So help us out, lock us in, subscribe today. And I hope you guys have had a wonderful weekend. Who Dat Nation, y'all stay golden. We'll catch you next time.